अस्सलाम वालेकुम, नमस्ते, सत श्री अकाल। मैं आपका अपना KMD यूनुस लर्न इंग्लिश विद KMD की चैनल की तरफ से आज फिर से मैं वापस आ गया हूँ मेरा लाइव सेशन लेके, जो कि स्पोकन इंग्लिश पे है। मैंने ये जो लाइव सेशन का सिलसिला है वो पिछले मंडे से शुरू किया था। आज फोर्थ लाइव सेशन है। मंडे, ट्यूसडे, वेडनेसडे, 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 वेडनेसडे। मैं बताते चलूं कि वेडनेसडे नहीं होता है, WEDNESDAY, ये सही स्पेलिंग है। लेकिन जब प्रोनाउंसिएशन की बात आती है तो हाँ, आपको एक बात याद रखनी होगी कि डी जो है साइलेंट हो जाता है। वेडनेसडे नहीं बोला जाता, हम कहेंगे वेडनेसडे, बगैर डी के कहेंगे तो आपका सही प्रोनाउंसिएशन बन जाता है वेडनेसडे, वेडनेसडे, वेडनेसडे। तो मैंने मंडे पहला लाइव सेशन किया और ट्यूसडे दूसरा लाइव सेशन किया और वेडनेसडे तीसरा और आज थर्सडे फोर्थ और आज फ्राइडे है, फिफ्थ लाइव सेशन मेरा होने वाला है। सैटरडे और संडे, जैसे मैंने पहले ही कहा था कि कोई भी लाइव सेशन नहीं होगा वीकेंड पे। सैटरडे और संडे कोई भी लाइव सेशन नहीं होगा। तो चलिए आ जाइए, मुझसे जुड़ जाइए। जितना हो सके उतनी तादाद में, ज़्यादा तादाद में मुझसे जुड़ने की कोशिश कीजिए। अगर आप मुझे लाइव सुन रहे हैं तो थम्स अप भेजिए और मुझसे जुड़ जाइए। वेरी वेरी गुड मॉर्निंग यूनुस सर, थैंक यू। आपको भी बहुत 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 गुड मॉर्निंग। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं आज का लाइव सेशन। क्या क्या चीज़ें हमने अब तक ये रोज़ाना 1 आवर का जो लाइव सेशन है, 1 घंटे का जो लाइव सेशन है, इनमें हमने क्या क्या चीज़ें कवर की, कौन से टॉपिक हमने कवर किए, चलिए एक बार देख लेते हैं। सबसे पहले मैंने शुरुआत की थी सवाल से कि व्हाट डज स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन। जो बिल्कुल सही सुना आपने। सबसे पहला जो सेशन है उस सेशन में मैंने स्पोकन इंग्लिश के बारे में बात की थी कि व्हाट डज स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन, और जवाब में मैंने कहा था कि स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन्स स्पीकिंग इंग्लिश फ्लुएंटली विदाउट हेजिटेशन। जी बिल्कुल सही सुना आपने। मैंने कहा था कि स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन्स स्पीकिंग इंग्लिश फ्लुएंटली विदाउट हेजिटेशन। जी, मैंने कहा था स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन्स स्पीकिंग इंग्लिश फ्लुएंटली विदाउट हेजिटेशन। जी, ऐसा कहा था मैंने। तो मेरा पहला जो सेशन है उसमें मैंने कहा था कि व्हाट डज स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन, तो फिर मैंने जवाब दिया कि स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन्स स्पीकिंग इंग्लिश फ्लुएंटली विदाउट हेजिटेशन। मैं एक बात जो है बार बार दोहरा रहा हूं, बार बार कह रहा हूं, अनगिनत बार कह रहा हूं। अगर आप मेरा लाइव सेशन हर रोज अटेंड कर रहे हो तो आपको भी पता चल चुका होगा कि मूल मंत्र क्या है, मैजिकल वर्ड क्या है, सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज क्या है, वो है प्रैक्टिस। जितना आप ज़बानी प्रैक्टिस करेंगे उतना आपको इसमें फायदा होगा। जितना आप बोलेंगे उतना फायदा होगा, जितना जोर जोर से बोलेंगे उतना फायदा होगा, बार बार बोलेंगे उतना फायदा होगा। मैं एक बात बताते चलूं, पढ़ाई इल्म कभी भी जाया नहीं होता, कभी भी पुराना नहीं होता, कभी भी बासी नहीं होता, कभी भी बेकार नहीं होता, जिंदगी भर आपके साथ चलते रहता है। मैंने जैसे पहले भी कहा था कि एक चीज ऐसी बताइए सारी दुनिया में जो बांटने से बढ़ती है और निखरती है और ज्यादा होती है, और वो है आपका इल्म, वो है आपका नॉलेज, वो है आपकी जो पढ़ाई है। जितना आप उसे बांटेंगे उतना वो बढ़ती जाएगी। तो सवाल ये है कि व्हाट डज स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन। जवाब है स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन स्पीकिंग इंग्लिश फ्लुएंटली विदाउट हेजिटेशन। उसके बाद मैंने बात की थी कि आपके अब्बा कमाने के लिए क्या करते हैं, तो मेरे सवाल थे व्हाट डज योर फादर डू फॉर लिविंग। मैं यहां पे आपके अब्बा के बारे में बात कर रहा हूं। What does your father do for living? मैं यहां पे आपके अम्मी के बारे में बात कर रहा हूं कि What does your mother do for living? मैं यहां पे आपके भाई के बारे में बात कर रहा हूं कि What does your brother do for living? मैं यहां पे आपकी बहन के बारे में बात कर रहा हूं What does your sister do for living? मैं यहां पे आपकी बेटी के बारे में बात कर रहा हूं What does your daughter do for living? मैं यहां पे आपके बेटे के बारे में बात कर रहा हूं कि What does your son do for living? मैं यहां पे एक लड़की के बारे में बात कर रहा हूं तो मेरा सवाल बन जाता है What does she do for living? एक लड़के के बारे में बात कर रहा हूं What does he do for living? और मेरा आपसे सवाल होगा कि What do you do for living? जी बिल्कुल सही सुना आपने। मेरा आखिरी सवाल है आपके लिए, मेरा आखिरी सवाल जाता है आपको, और मेरा आखिरी सवाल है What do you do for living? जी बिल्कुल सही सुना आपने। मैंने 2 बार do यूज किया है यहां पे। What do you do for living? यानी कि आप काम क्या करते हो, आप पैसा कैसे कमाते हो, आपकी रोजी रोटी कैसी चलती है, आपकी कमाई कहां से होती है, आपके अब्बा की रोजी रोटी कैसी चलती है, आपके अब्बा रोजी रोटी के लिए क्या करते हैं। तो इन सारे सवालों का एडवांस सवाल होगा कि What does your father do for living? रिपीट करते जाइए, प्रैक्टिस करते जाइए। देखिए कितनी आसानी से ये सारे सवाल मेरी जबान को आ रहे हैं, कितनी आसानी से मेरी जबान जो है इन सारे सवालों को पूछ रही है, कितनी आसानी से मेरी जबान जो है इन सारे सवालों को प्रैक्टिस कर चुकी है। तो मेरा पहला सवाल है What does your father do for living? What does your mother do for living? What does your brother do for living? What does your sister do for living? What does your daughter do for living? What does your son do for living? What does he do for living? What does she do for living? What does Ronnie do for living? What does Roger do for living? What does your friend do for a living? What does your wife do for a living? What does your husband do for a living? What does your better half do for a living? What does your spouse do for a living? What do you do for a living? What do you do for a living? What do you do for a living? आप कमाने के लिए क्या करते हैं? आप रोजी रोटी के लिए क्या करते हैं? आप जीने के लिए क्या करते हैं? देखिए कितनी आसानी से ये सारे सवाल मेरी जबान से आ रहे हैं, मेरे मुंह से बाहर आ रहे हैं। अगर आप भी प्रैक्टिस करेंगे इससे भी फास्ट बात कर सकेंगे। मैं सिर्फ एक छोटी सी टेक्निक यहाँ पे ये फॉलो कर रहा हूं कि मैं जो है लफ्जों को बहने दे रहा हूं, मैं जो है लफ्जों को जो है पानी की तरह बहने दे रहा हूं। मैं लफ्जों को पकड़ के नहीं बैठा हूं, मैं लफ्जों को जो है फिक्स करके नहीं बैठा हूं। मैं ऐसा नहीं कहता कि What does your father do for a living? What does your mother do for a living? What does your brother do for a living? What does your sister do for a living? मैं ऐसा नहीं कहता। क्यों नहीं कहता? मुझे पता है कि ये गलत है। इस तरीके से लैंग्वेज नहीं बोली जाती, इस तरीके से नेटिव स्पीकर्स नहीं बात करते, इस तरीके की लैंग्वेज उन लोगों को समझ में नहीं आती, वो इस तरीके से लैंग्वेज बात नहीं करते। वो लोग हमेशा स्पोकन इंग्लिश फॉलो करते हैं जब इंग्लिश में बात करते हैं, और वी इंडियंस हम लोग जो है रिटन इंग्लिश फॉलो करते हैं जब हम इंग्लिश लिखते हैं, वो जो बिल्कुल सही चीज है, और रिटन इंग्लिश फॉलो करते हैं जब इंग्लिश बोलते हैं, जो सरासर गलत है। तो मेरे बात दोहराइए। What does your father do for a living? What does your mother do for a living? What does your brother do for a living? What does your sister do for a living? What does your daughter do for a living? What does your son do for a living? What does your friend do for a living? What does he do for a living? What does she do for a living? What does Ronnie do for a living? What does Roger do for a living? What does your wife do for a living? What does your husband do for a living? What does your better half do for a living? What does your spouse do for a living? What does your spouse do for a living? बस सिंपल सी चीज है, सिंपल सी चीज है, बस उतना ही। थैंक यू वेरी मच। टेक योर नेम। व्हाट्स आपका नाम क्या है? वो नाम क्या है? CRIC एडिट्स। नाम क्या है आपका? What's your name? What's your appellation, sir? It gets much easier for me to announce your name. It gets much easier for me to take your name if you let me know your real name or your real appellation. What's your name? CRIC edits. Is that cricket edits? तो चलिए आ जाइए, जुड़ जाइए, हम लोग प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं सवालों की कि व्हाट डज योर फादर डू फॉर लिविंग, व्हाट डज योर मदर डू फॉर लिविंग, व्हाट डज योर ब्रदर डू फॉर लिविंग, व्हाट डज योर सिस्टर डू फॉर लिविंग, व्हाट डज योर डॉटर डू फॉर लिविंग, व्हाट डज योर सन डू फॉर लिविंग, what does he do for a living, what does she do for a living, what does Ronnie do for a living, what does Roger do for a living, what does your friend do for a living, what does your friend do for a living, और आखिरी में होगा what does your wife do for a living, what does your husband do for a living, what does your better half do for a living, what does your spouse do for a living, आखिरी में होगा what do you do for a living, what do you do for a living, what do you do for a living. ताज उस्मान, अस्सलाम वालेकुम ताज उस्मान, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया लाइव ज्वाइन होने के लिए। अस्सलाम वालेकुम रहमतुल्लाहि बरकातहू, कैसे हो? Hello, hello, hello. Thank you very much Taj Usman for joining me live today. I really appreciate you joining me. कैसे हो? अस्सलाम वालेकुम, खैरियत? चलो ताज उस्मान, ये सवाल का जवाब मुझे टाइप करके भेजो या फिर एक सवाल टाइप करके भेजो very quickly कि what does your father do for a living? What does your father do for a living? जवाब होगा my father is a doctor. आपके अब्बा डॉक्टर है शायद, नहीं? What does your father do for a living? आप कह सकते हैं कि my father does treatment for a living, यानी तो आप कह सकते हैं कि my father is a doctor. What does your mother do for a living? What does your brother do for a living? What does your sister do for a living? What does he do for a living? What does she do for a living? What does Ronnie do for a living? What does Roger do for a living? What does your friend do for a living? What does your daughter do for a living? What does your son do for a living? What does your wife do for a living? What does your husband do for a living? What does your better half do for a living? What does your spouse do for a living? और आखिरी सवाल बन जाता है what do you do for a living? What do you do for a living? What do you do for a living? ताज उस्मान, मैं चाहता हूं कि आप मेरे इस सवाल का जवाब दें कि what do you do for a living, और आपका जवाब होगा I do nothing for a living because I am a student. I do nothing for a living. मैं कुछ नहीं करता. I do nothing for a living. I am a student. I am a student. ओके, तो बात हो रही है स्पोकन इंग्लिश की और बात हो रही है क्या क्या हमने पिछले 4 दिनों में सीखा। सबसे पहले सेशन में, लाइव सेशन में मैंने बात की थी कि स्पोकन इंग्लिश का मतलब क्या है, व्हाट डज स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन, और उसका जवाब था स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन्स स्पीकिंग इंग्लिश फ्लुएंटली विदाउट हेजिटेशन। कार्तिक, thank you, Karthik. Good morning, sir. Good morning to you, Karthik. Thank you very much for joining me live today. I really appreciate you joining me live today. Karthik, I'm coming to you. I want you to answer this question of mine right away, Karthik. What does your father do for a living? What does your father do for a living? And here is the answer, Karthik. My father does job for a living. My father does business for a living. My father does work for a living. Karthik, I want you to answer the simple, very simple question of mine. If your father is a businessman, you better say, my father does business for a living. If your father is a job holder, if your father is an employee, if your father is a white collar, you better say, my father does job for living. My father does job for a living. Karthik, I am talking to you. I'm addressing you. I want you to answer the simple question of mine right away. My father does business for a living. My father does job for living. My father does work for living. What does your father do for a living? What does your father do for a living? Thank you very much, Karthik. My father is a government employee. That sounds absolutely fabulous. Absolutely fantastic. I am happy to hear that your father is a government employee. Your father is a government employee. Mamta, good morning. Good morning to you too, Mamta. Thank you very much for joining me live today. Good morning. Good morning. Mamta, what does your father do for a living? What does your father do for a living? And here is your answer, Mamta. I want you to type this answer right away. My father does farming for living. My father does farming. Farming. My father does farming for living. Karthik, I'm coming back to you. I want you to type this answer again. My father does government job for living. I want you to type this message again, Karthik. If you are free and if it's not a problem for you, if it's not a pain for you, I want you to send me another message. And I want you to mention this in that message. My father does government job for living. Mamta, your answer is my father does farming for living. तो हम बात कर रहे हैं स्पोकन इंग्लिश की कि व्हाट डज स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन और जवाब होता है स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन्स speak in English fluently without hesitation. Thank you very much, Mamta. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much, Karthik. Thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate it joining me. I really appreciate your messages. My father does government job for a living. Very good. Karthik, what do you do for a living? What do you do for a living? And the answer is, I do nothing for a living. Karthik, I guess you are a student, right? Were you a student? Were you a student, Karthik? If you're a student, your answer would be, I do nothing for a living. I am a student. I do nothing for a living. I'm a student. Karthik, I want you to answer the simple question of mine right away. The question is not about your father. The question is about you. What do you do for a living? What do you do for a living? And the answer is, I do nothing for a living. I am a student. Are you a student, Karthik? If you're a student, your answer is this. I do nothing for a living. I'm a student. Oh, very good. Ecstatic to hear that you do a job and you are a software engineer. I do software job for living. That's absolutely fabulous. That's absolutely fantastic. Karthik, have you had a breakfast? Have you had your breakfast? Have you had your breakfast? Have you had a breakfast? Yes, sir, I have had my breakfast. No, sir, I have not had my breakfast. तो हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं स्पोकन इंग्लिश की कि व्हाट डज स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन और जवाब होता है कि स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन्स स्पीक इन इंग्लिश फ्लुएंटली विदाउट हेजिटेशन। और मेरी सवाल है, what does your father do for a living? What does your mother do for a living? What does your brother do for a living? What does your sister do for a living? What does Ronnie do for a living? What does Roger do for a living? What does he do for a living? What does she do for a living? What does your daughter do for a living? What does your son do for a living? What does your friend do for a living? What does your wife do for a living? What does your husband do for a living? What does your better half do for a living? What does your spouse do for a living? Yes, sorry. Yes, I remember now. So, yes. Okay, Karthik, thank you very much for joining me live today. Karthik, are you on Instagram? Are you on Instagram? If you are on Instagram, you gotta message me on Instagram, Karthik. Follow me on Instagram and gotta message me on Instagram. You gotta message me on Instagram, Learn English with KMD. You gotta message me on Instagram, Karthik. Follow me on Instagram, Learn English with KMD. Thank you, Karthik. Thank you, Mamta. Thank you very much for joining me live today. Thank you very much, Mr. Taj Usman, for joining me live today. Well, जैसे कि मैंने कहा था कि you keep on forgetting me, sir. I'm sorry. I'm really very sorry. I'm really very terrible at remembering names. I'm really very sorry, Karthik. And I promise you that I'm not going to do this mistake again in future. I am promising you. I'm giving you my word that I'm not going to forget you in future anymore. Right? Thank you very much. No, sir. I did not text you. And I will follow you now on Insta. Yes, no, I want you to follow me on Instagram. I want you to text me on Instagram. You gotta text me on Instagram. Please follow me on Instagram and text me on Instagram. My Instagram ID is Learn English with KMD. Thank you very much, Karthik. 25 minutes हो चुके हैं. 35 minutes बाकी है लाइव सेशन होने के लिए. कार्तिक, आपको हिंदी समझ में आती है? कार्तिक, आप बैंगलोर में जॉब कर रहे हैं? नहीं, हैदराबाद में जॉब कर रहे हैं. आई गेस कार्तिक आप हैदराबाद में जॉब कर रहे हैं. हैदराबाद, राइट? कार्तिक, where are you working? Hyderabad or Bangalore? हैदराबाद, राइट. सो आपको हिंदी आती होगा. तो ये लाइव सेशन जो है हिंदी में है, ये लाइव सेशन जो है उर्दू में है, कार्तिक, राइट? सो व्हाट डज स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन, कार्तिक? सवाल ये है कि व्हाट डज स्पोकन इंग्लिश मीन, और जवाब ये है कि आई नो Okay, four. You know 4 languages. What are those languages, Karthik? Telugu, Hindi, Urdu, English. Is that right, Karthik? Am I right? Am I correct? Hindi, Urdu, Telugu, and English. English, Hindi, Telugu, Marathi. Okay. Hindi, English, Telugu, Marathi. Marathi. माझं नाम युनुस आहे आणि मणी अवलत मराठी येते. समथिंग लाइक दैट, राइट? मेरा नाम यूनुस है और मैं मराठी हूं. ये सही था, कार्तिक. माझं नाम यूनुस है आणि मणी अवलत मराठी येते. समथिंग लाइक दैट. ओके. इंग्लिश, हिंदी, तेलुगु, मराठी. Okay, Karthik, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, Karthik. Mamta, thank you very much for joining me live today. So 28 minutes have gone by. Super, sir. नहीं, उतना भी super नहीं था. No, उतना भी super नहीं था. Okay, so नहीं, उतना भी correct नहीं था. Just छोटा सा, थोड़ा सा try. बस. Okay, Karthik, what does spoken English mean? जवाब होता है कि spoken English means speaking English fluently without hesitation. और उसके बाद मैंने दूसरे लाइव सेशन में बात की सवालों के बारे में. What does your father do for living? What does your mother do for living? What does your brother do for living? What does your sister do for living? What does he do for living? What does she do for living? What does Ronnie do for living? What does Roger do for living? What does your daughter do for living? What does your son do for living? What does your husband do for living? What does your wife do for living? What does your better half do for living? What does your spouse do for living? Karthik, I'm coming to you. I want you to answer the simple question of mine. What does your better half do for living, Karthik? What does your better half? BETTERHALF. Or it could be SPOUSE, स्पाउस। जब कभी आप ये दो लफ्ज यूज करते हैं, बेटर हाफ या स्पाउस, इसका मतलब है कि आप अपनी बीवी या फिर अपने हस्बैंड के बारे में बात कर रहे हो। अगर आप ही है तो आप यूज कर रहे हो स्पाउस, या फिर बेटर हाफ तो अपनी वाइफ के बारे में बात कर रहे हो। अगर आप शी हो यानी कि लड़की हो और बात कर रहे हो स्पाउस और बेटर हाफ के बारे में, तो आप अपने हस्बैंड के बारे में बात कर रहे हो। कार्तिक, what does your better half do for a living, Karthik? What does your better half do for a living, Karthik? What does your spouse do for a living, Karthik? What does your wife do for a living, Karthik? Wife, spouse, better half, or same. I am talking about a wife. I'm single. Yes, I know. I know you are single. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I know you are single. I also know that you are ready to mingle. Am I right, Karthik? You are single and you're always ready to mingle. I'm not committed. Right. Okay. Happy to hear that you're not committed. Right? So you are on the right path, Karthik. You are on the right path. You are not falling prey to anybody. You are on the right path. You are on the safe side. You are enjoying your life. Karthik, I would like to give an advanced expression here to talk about your present situation. I am footloose and fancy free, Karthik. ఏం చెప్తావు? I am footloose and fancy free అంటే నేను ఏ రిలేషన్లో లేను, నాకు ఏం బాండింగ్ లేదు, ఫ్రీ బర్డ్, చేతులు కాళ్ళు కట్టి లేదు, భార్య పిల్లలు లేరు, లవ్వర్ లేదు, రిలేషన్షిప్ లేదు, ఫ్రీ 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 ఉన్నాను. Then you can go with this expression, I am footloose, కాళ్ళు ఫ్రీ ఉన్నాయి. I am footloose and fancy free. So Karthik, you are footloose and fancy free. I want you to type this message right away, Karthik. I am footloose and fancy free, sir. I want you to type this message right away, Mr. Karthik. Yes, sir. I remember this class about footloose and yes, I want you to type this expression. I want you to type this message right away, Karthik. And once again, I would like to remind you, I'm asking you to message me on Instagram, Karthik. You gotta message me on Instagram. My Instagram ID is Learn English with KMD. Remember my ID, Karthik, Learn English with KMD, and you gotta message me on Instagram. So what does your father do for a living? I'm footloose and fancy free. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Karthik, for joining me live today. I'm really very happy that you are footloose and fancy free and you're not committed. You're not in love with anybody. You are enjoying your life and you are working as a software engineer at Hyderabad, and you happen to be one of my old students. You come from the school where I worked as a spoken English trainer for more than 17 years, right? So one thing I really liked about your sentence is the word decade, D-E-C-A-D. You mentioned it very clear in your text, in your message, that you are one of my old students and you happen to be, a decade old student of mine, 10 years old student of mine. Thank you very much. So चलिए वापस चलते हैं। तो सवाल शुरू हुआ है, What does spoken English mean? जवाब है spoken English means speaking English fluently without hesitation. उसके बाद मैंने सवालों के बारे में बात किया कि What does your father do for a living? What does your mother do for a living? What does your brother do for a living? What does he do for a living? What does she do for a living? What does Ronnie do for a living? What does Roger do for a living? What does your daughter do for a living? What does your son do for a living? What does your friend do for a living? What does your wife do for a living? What does your husband do for a living? What does your better half do for a living? What does your spouse do for a living? Karthik, I'm coming back to you. I want you to answer this question to me. The same question to be units of what does your spouse do for a living, or it could be units of what does your better half do for a living, or it could be units of what does your wife do for a living. I want you to ask this question to me right away. Karthik, I'm talking to you. I want you to ask this question to me right away. I know you are dying to ask this question to me about my better half, about my spouse, about my wife. I know you are dying to ask this question, right? I want you to type this message to me right away. Right away, immediately, you know, so what does your better half do for living? Thank you very much. I will accept you. I'll follow you back on Instagram. Thank you very much, Karthik. I want you to ask this question to me right away, Karthik. You know, so what does your better half do for a living? What does your spouse do for a living? I want you to use better half or spouse, but not wife. Yes, of course, all three words talk about the same thing, but I want you to use some sort of advanced vocabulary here rather than going with that outdated word wife. I want you to go with an advanced word, better half or spouse. S-P-O-U-S-E spouse. S-P-O-U-S-E spouse. Thank you very much. So हमने सवाल देखे कि what does your father do for a living, what does your mother do for a living, what does your brother do for a living, and what does your sister do for a living. उसके बाद मैंने एक first sentences के बारे में बात की कि I go to home. मैंने कहा कि I go to home. फिर उसके बाद मैंने कहा I go to school. फिर मैंने कहा I go to college. फिर मैंने कहा I go to park. जी, फिर मैंने आखिरी में फिफ्थ सेंटेंस में कहा I go to spoken English class. I go to spoken English class. जी, मैंने ये कहा 5 sentences. I go to home. I go to school. I go to college. I go to park, or I go to spoken English class. I go to spoken English class. तो चलिए देखते हैं कि अगर आप मुझे देख रहे हैं, अगर आप मुझे सुन पा रहे हैं, तो चलिए बताइए इन सेंटेंसेस में प्रॉब्लम क्या है, इन सेंटेंसेस में मिस्टेक क्या है, इन सेंटेंसेस में गलती क्या है. कार्तिक, तो मैं थोड़ा आसान कर दूं कि मैंने कहा था कि पहला सेंटेंस छोड़ के दूसरा सेंटेंस सही है, तीसरा सेंटेंस सही है, फोर्थ सेंटेंस सही है और फिफ्थ सेंटेंस भी सही है, सिवाय फर्स्ट सेंटेंस के. फर्स्ट सेंटेंस गलत है. फर्स्ट सेंटेंस is grammatically incorrect. First sentence is grammatically wrong. First sentence is grammatically inappropriate. और मैं चाहता हूं कि आप मुझे बताएं कि फर्स्ट सेंटेंस में गलती क्या है. फर्स्ट सेंटेंस में गलती क्या है, आप लोग मुझे ये बताएं. क्यों गलत है ये कहना कि I go to home? आप इसके बदले क्या कह सकते हैं, इसके जगह पे क्या कह सकते हैं? क्या गलत है फोर्थ सेंटेंस में? फोर्थ सेंटेंस में क्या चीज गलत है? ओके, फर्स्ट सेंटेंस में जो है गलती है वो है टू. बगैर प्रपोजिशन, हम लोग कभी भी यहां पे प्रपोजिशन यूज नहीं करते. हम लोग कभी भी होम के साथ प्रपोजिशन यूज नहीं करते. कार्तिक, कभी भी कहना कि I go home. I go home. కార్తిక్, ఎప్పుడు చెప్పు I go home. హోమ్ ముందు ప్రపోజిషన్ యూజ్ చేయకూడదు. बहुत सारे लोग कहते हैं कि I return to home, तो ये भी गलत है. I return to home చెప్పడం కూడా తప్పు. Home ముందు preposition ఎప్పుడు రాదు. చెప్పు. I return home. I go home. I return home. I go home. इन दोनों सेंटेंसेस में मैंने जो है बिल्कुल सही I go home. मैंने जो है प्रपोजिशन यूज नहीं किया. क्यों? क्योंकि होम जो है एक एडवर्ब है. कार्तिक, होम जो है एक एडवर्ब है और एक डायरेक्शन की तरह यूज किया जा रहा है. जैसे कि कार्तिक, I go to upstairs. నువ్వు ఇట్లా చెప్తావా? I go to upstairs. లేదు, I go upstairs. కరెక్ట్ అవుతుంది. I go to downstairs. ఇట్లా చెప్తావా? I go to downstairs. No, I go downstairs. I go to outside. ఇట్లా చెప్తావా? I go to outside. No, I go outside. I go to inside. ఇట్లా చెప్తావా? No, I go inside. Grammatically correct sentences क्या है? Grammatically, जी, बिल्कुल correct, Karthik. Thank you very much, Karthik. You got the right answer. I go upstairs. I go downstairs. I go outside. I go inside. We don't use prepositions here. ఇక్కడ prepositions use नहीं होते. उसी तरीके से I go to home गलत होता है. I go home. I return to home wrong होता है. I return home. If you are saying something like this, I am going to home, this one is wrong. And it is wrong because of this proposition here. बोलिए, I am going home. कार्तिक, क्या आपको समझ में आ रहा है? अगर समझ में आ रहा तो प्लीज मुझे थम्स अप भेजिए. कार्तिक, I am going home. I am going home. Karthik, can we use will, sir? Please tell me later. Okay, tell me after. All right, yes, of course. Okay, Karthik. I am going to home wrong. I am going home. I went to home wrong. I went home. I will go to home wrong. बोलिए, I will go home. I will go home, Karthik. I will go home. कार्तिक, आपका डाउट था क्या हम will यूज कर सकते हैं I के बाद? जी बिल्कुल यूज कर सकते हैं, लेकिन ये जो है फ्यूचर के बारे में बात करेगा. फ्यूचर के बारे में. आज फ्राइडे है और आप सैटरडे के बारे में बात कर रहे हो या वीकेंड के बारे में बात कर रहे हो, सैटरडे और संडे के बारे में बात कर रहे हो, तो आप मुझे टाइप कर सकते हैं मैसेज के, यूर सर आई विल गो होम ऑन वीकेंड. आई विल गो होम ऑन वीकेंड. याद रखे कि कभी ना कहे कि आई विल गो टू होम ऑन वीकेंड. नो, आई विल गो होम ऑन वीकेंड. कार्तिक, वीकेंड को कब ला रहे हैं आप? कल वीकेंड है, कल सैटरडे है और संडे है. क्या आप वीकेंड, यस इट्स फ्यूचर, क्या आप वीकेंड को करनू ला रहे हैं कार्तिक? मेरा मतलब है कि कल और परसों वीकेंड है, आज फ्राइडे है. वीकेंड को तो सॉफ्टवेयर कंपनीज बंद रहती हैं. इट्स अ हॉलिडे ऑन वीकेंड्स, राइट? I think you people don't have to work on weekends. Are you coming to Colonel tomorrow, Karthik? Are you coming to Colonel tomorrow? I will go home on weekend. I am going home. I went home. I go home. I return home. I am returning home. I returned home. I will return home. I will return home. I will return home. इन सारे के सारे सेंटेंसेस में मैंने to यूज नहीं किया है. So what represents future? Yes, you're absolutely correct. You can say that again, Karthik. You can say that again. Karthik, यहां पे मैं एक एक्सप्रेशन यूज कर रहा हूं जिसका जो है you can say that again. कार्तिक, मैं चाहता हूं कि आप ये मुझे टाइप करें फौरन. You can say that again. टाइप चाहिए. You can say that again. टाइप करके मुझे भेजो कार्तिक. You can say that again. So इन चीजों के बारे में हमने बात की लाइव सेशन में. मंडे बात की. I got you, sir. Yes. हमने मंडे बात की. What does spoken English mean? Spoken English means speaking English point without a station. अरे इसको टाइप करके भेजिए सिर्फ. You can say that again. You can say that again. Yes. You can say that again. कार्तिक, you can say that again का मतलब क्या है? अभी तुमने कहा कि will फ्यूचर को रिप्रेजेंट करता है जब I के बाद आता है. तो मैंने कहा बिल्कुल सही. करेक्ट చెప్పినావు. నేను నీతో ఏకీభవిస్తున్నాను. నేను నీతో నువ్వు చెప్పిన మాటకి నేను యాక్సెప్ట్ చేస్తున్నాను. How to say that in English? बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हो आप. मैं आपसे अग्री करता हूं तो तब आप कहेंगे you can say that again. क्या कहेंगे कार्तिक? You can say that again. దాని అర్థం ఏమంటే అవును సార్ మీరు కరెక్ట్ చెప్తున్నారు. నేను మీరు చెప్పిన ఒక్కొక్క మాట నమ్ముతున్నాను, యాక్సెప్ట్ చేస్తున్నాను. అంటే అడ్వాన్స్ ఎక్స్ప్రెషన్ ఏం చెప్తావు? You can say that again. You can say that again. You can say that again. और अभी मैं एक स्टेटमेंट करूंगा कार्तिक और मैं चाहूंगा कि आप मुझे इसमें जवाब दें कि advanced science and technology is making all of us couch potatoes. Couch potato, a lazy person. एडवांस साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी की वजह से हम सारे लोग जो है लेजी बन रहे हैं. क्या आप मेरी बात से एक्सेप्ट करते हो कार्तिक? నా మాటని నువ్వు ఏకీభవిస్తున్నావా? నా మాటని నువ్వు యాక్సెప్ట్ చేస్తున్నావా? అవును అంటే ఇది టైప్ చేసి పంపించు. Yes sir, you can say that again. Advanced science and technology is making all of us couch potatoes. Advanced science and technology is making us couch potatoes. Yes, you can say that again. You are correct, sir. Rather than saying you are correct, you better go with this advanced expression, Karthik. You can say that again. 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 You can say that again, sir. Absolutely fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Now, if I say something like this, Sachin Tendulkar is the god of cricket. Sachin Tendulkar is a master blaster. Sachin Tendulkar is the be-all and end-all of cricket. Sachin Tendulkar is the alpha and omega of cricket. Sachin Tendulkar అనేది క్రికెట్ యొక్క దేవుడు. నువ్వు నాతో నమ్ముతున్నావు అంటే నువ్వు అప్పుడు ఏం చెప్తావు? You can say that again, sir. నేను నమ్ముతున్నాను, నేను యాక్సెప్ట్ చేస్తున్నాను, నేను అగ్రీ చేస్తున్నాను. Okay, so what does spoken English mean? 48 minutes ho chuke hai, 12 minutes more to go. Thank you very much, all you people out there, for joining me live today. Okay, Karthik. I go home. I go home. Karthik, मैं चाहता हूं कि आप ये सारे सेंटेंसेस एक ही बार टाइप करके बड़ा सा मैसेज मुझे भेज दीजिए कि I go home, I am going home, I went home, I will go home बगैर टू प्रपोजिशन यूज किए हुए एक ही मैसेज में 1 2 3 4 मैसेजेस टाइप करके भेजिए। पहला मैसेज है I go home, दूसरा मैसेज है I am going home, तीसरा मैसेज है I went home, फोर्थ मैसेज है I will go home। कार्तिक, so first sentence है I go home, दूसरा सेंटेंस है I go to school। I go to school कहना बिल्कुल ही सही होगा। I go to school, मैं स्कूल जाता हूँ। I go to school। तीसरा सेंटेंस है I go to college। फोर्थ सेंटेंस है I go to park। और फिफ्थ सेंटेंस है I go to spoken English class। फिर मैंने कहा कि जब कभी सेंटेंसेस I से शुरू होते हैं सवाल करने के लिए हम लोग डू का इस्तेमाल करते हैं। सवाल करने के लिए हम लोग जो है डू का इस्तेमाल करते हैं जब कभी सेंटेंसेस आई से शुरू होते हैं। देखिए सवाल, चलिए सवाल देखते हैं कि पहला सवाल है डू यू गो होम, डू यू गो टू स्कूल, डू यू go to college, do you go to park, do you go to spoken English class, do you go to spoken English class? Question number 1, question, 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 question। correct pronunciation है question, chen, question, question नहीं होता, question नहीं होता, श का आवाज नहीं आता, छ का आवाज आता है क्वेश्चन, 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 क्वेश्चन। तो 5 क्वेश्चंस बन जाते हैं यहां पे। पहला क्वेश्चन है डू यू गो होम। क्वेश्चन नंबर 2, डू यू गो टू स्कूल। क्वेश्चन नंबर 3, डू यू गो टू कॉलेज। क्वेश्चन नंबर 4, डू यू गो to park। Question number 5, do you go to spoken English class? Do you go to spoken English class? So 5 sentences है और 5 questions है। So ये सारी चीजें हमने गए एक हफ्ते में कवर करने की कोशिश की है। Karthik, thank you very much. Karthik, I really appreciate it joining me live today. I really appreciate your taking pain. If we say like this, you can say that again. Okay. You have to say that again. How can it become accepting you? Please tell me, sir. Okay. Karthik, ये जो है एक एक्सप्रेशन है, ఒక ఎక్స్ప్రెషన్ ఉందన్నమాట. యూ కెన్ సే దట్ అగైన్ అనేది ఒక అడ్వాన్స్ ఎక్స్ప్రెషన్ అన్నమాట. అది మనం ఎప్పుడు యూజ్ చేస్తామంటే ఎవరైనా ఏమైనా చెప్తున్నారంటే దానికి ఏకీభవిస్తున్నావు, వాళ్ళు చెప్పింది నువ్వు ఒప్పుకుంటున్నావు, వాళ్ళు చెప్పింది కరెక్ట్ అని నీకే అనిపిస్తుంటే నువ్వు ఈ అడ్వాన్స్ ఎక్స్ప్రెషన్స్తో పోవచ్చు అనమాట. యూ కెన్ సే దట్ అగైన్ అంటే మీరు చెప్పింది మళ్ళా చెప్పొచ్చు, ఇంకొకసారి చెప్పొచ్చు, అది నా తరపున చెప్పినట్టుగా అవుతుంది, ఎందుకంటే నేను కూడా అదే చెప్తున్నాను. మీరు ఇందాక చెప్పినారు కి మహాత్మా గాంధీ ఫాదర్ ఆఫ్ నేషన్ ఉన్నారు ఇండియాలో. మహాత్మా గాంధీ ఇండియాలో ఫాదర్ ఆఫ్ నేషన్. అవును, నేను కూడా అదే అనుకుంటున్నాను అంటే నువ్వు కూడా మళ్ళీ అదే తిప్పి చెప్పాలా. యూ క్యాన్ సే దట్ అగైన్ అంటే నా బదులుగా మీరు ఇంకొకసారి చెప్పండి అంటే నేను మీరు చెప్పిన దాంతో ఒప్పుకుంటున్నాను, ఏకీభవిస్తున్నాను. అప్పుడు నువ్వు ఏం చెప్తావు? యూ క్యాన్ సే దాట్ అగైన్. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇట్లా కూడా చెప్పుకోవచ్చు. Smartphones are ubiquitous. Smartphones are ubiquitous. ubiquitous. Ubiquitous అంటే ఏమి కార్తిక్? Ubiquitous అంటే ప్రతి ఒక్క చోట కనిపిస్తున్నాయి. విలేజెస్లో, టౌన్స్లో, సిటీస్లో, అబ్రాడ్ కంట్రీస్లో స్మార్ట్ ఫోన్స్ లేని ప్లేస్ లేదు. యుబిక్వరస్ అంటే ప్రెజెంట్ ఎవ్రీవేర్. ఇంకొక పదం యూజ్ చేసుకోవచ్చు యుబిక్వరస్ బదులుగా ఆమ్ని ప్రెజెంట్. ప్రెజెంట్ ఎవ్రీవేర్. యుబిక్వరస్, omnipresent. Donkey is ubiquitous. Donkey is ubiquitous. అంటే డాంకీ తమిళనాడులో ఉంటుంది, కర్ణాటకలో ఉంటుంది, ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్లో ఉంటుంది. ప్రతి ఒక్క చోట డాంకీ దొరుకుతుంది. అదేవిధంగా పోలార్ బేర్. పోలార్ బేర్, వైట్ బేర్. ఐడియా ఉందా కార్తిక్? పోలార్ బేర్ ఇస్ నాట్ యుబిక్వరస్. మనకి ఎక్కడంటే అక్కడ దొరకదు అది. పోలార్ బేర్ ఎక్కడ దొరుకుతుంది? అంటార్టికా రీజన్లో దొరుకుతుంది. సో నేను అది చెప్పలేను, పోలార్ బేర్ ఈజ్ యుబిక్విడస్ చెప్పలేను. ఇప్పుడు నేను చెప్పినాను డాంకీ ఈజ్ యుబిక్విడస్. నువ్వు నాతో నమ్ముతున్నావు, ఒప్పుకుంటున్నావు అంటే నువ్వు చెప్పొచ్చు ఎస్ సార్, యూ క్యాన్ సే దాట్ అగైన్. పానీపూరి. పానీపూరి, వాటర్ బాల్స్, పానీపూరి is ubiquitous. పానీపూరి is ubiquitous. ఎక్కడైనా దొరుకుతుంది. అప్పుడు నువ్వు ఏం చెప్పొచ్చు? You can say that again. Yes. How do you pronounce this word, Karthik? How do you pronounce this word? Vehicle. How do you pronounce that word? Yes sir, you can say that again. Very good. అవును సార్, నేను మీరు చెప్పింది ఒప్పుకుంటున్నాను. How do we pronounce that word? vehicle. వెహికల్ కాదు కార్తిక్, అది vehicle. Vehicle. కాదు. కరెక్ట్ ప్రొనౌన్సియేషన్ ఏముందంటే vehicle. Or ubiquitous. Yes, you are absolutely correct. Yes, Karthik, you can say that again. Cars are ubiquitous. Bikes are ubiquitous. Bicycles are ubiquitous. Air is ubiquitous. Air is present everywhere. Water, Karthik. Water. Kadu. Water is ubiquitous. Air is ubiquitous. The sun is ubiquitous. The moon is ubiquitous. Stars are ubiquitous. Sky is ubiquitous. Yes sir, you can say that again. Thank you very much. Okay, Karthik. So you can say that again, Karthik. So ये कहना गलत होगा कि I go to home, Karthik. आपको कहना होगा कि I go home. I am going home कहना गलत होगा. So will we never use yes after vehicle, sir? Please tell me. Yes, of course. See, we always say if it's a single vehicle, if it's more than one, we say vehicles. You are talking about all vehicles here. So the sentence is vehicles are ubiquitous. Now when you talk about vehicles, you talk about all bikes. You talk about all sorts of bikes. You talk about Activa. You talk about gear bikes. You talk about self-start bikes. You talk about electric bikes. You talk about all sorts of modes of transport here when you talk about vehicles. Public transport. Vehicles. So yes, Karthik. I go home. I am going home. I went home. I will go home. Karthik. सिर्फ 1 मिनट है कार्तिक. So Tomorrow is Saturday and Sunday. Are you coming to Colonel Karthik? Are you coming to Colonel Karthik? Are you coming to Colonel tomorrow? As it's weekend tomorrow. Are you coming to Colonel tomorrow? Are you paying visit to your family tomorrow? Are you visiting your family? Are you visiting your family tomorrow, Karthik? Okay, so चलिए I go home. I will go home. Yes, absolutely correct. Thank you very much, Karthik. तो चलिए सिर्फ और सिर्फ 1 मिनट है इससे पहले के 60 मिनट्स हो जाए जी 60 मिनट्स हो गए हैं एग्जैक्टली 1 आवर हो चुका है बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आप सभी लोगों का Oh, work from home. Are you in Colonel right now, Karthik? Are you in Colonel? Okay, तो चलिए फिर जुड़ते हैं लाइव सेशन में लेकिन सैटरडे और संडे लाइव सेशन नहीं होगा अब हमारी सीधे मुलाकात होगी मंडे को यानी कि नेक्स्ट वीक हमारी मुलाकात होगी तब तक के लिए मैं सभी का दिल से शुक्रिया अदा करूंगा कार्तिक का ममता का ताज उस्मान का सलीम का सारे लोगों का मुझसे लाइव जुड़ने के लिए आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया इसी के साथ आपका अपना KMD यूनिस प्रोफेशनल स्पोकन इंग्लिश ट्रेनर आपसे इजाजत चाहता है अस्सलाम वालेकुम नमस्ते सत श्री अकाल बाय बाय टेक केयर